Welcome to the Cherry Picker After Dark, the Patreon exclusive version of the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zack, and with me as always is...
You're a dope and a bonehead, and you're Shirty, Eddie of Edward is Truth.
What does Shirty even mean?
I didn't even look it up. It's
No.
It's a fun word.
She said it, and I had to look it up because I'm like, I've never heard it. I think it just means like annoyed. But that aside, this episode we are discussing Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 7 and ranking all 22 episodes from this final season of the show. If you've been with us for the other Cherry Picker After Dark episodes, we've already covered seasons 1 to 6, obviously. And if you are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, just know that this is a preview of the Patreon episode. So if you do want to watch or listen to the entire thing, you can go support over there under Zack Cherry, myself, and that's the Freddy Krueger tier, and that will get you not only early access to all of our regular episodes, but you will be able to access this show as well as all the previous seasons. And I forget like what number of episodes we're even up to with the Cherry Picker After Dark, but there is tons of bonus episodes and just hours of us yammering on with one another. Like we do a lot of that.
Arguing, sometimes agreeing.
Usually not.
Agreeing to disagree.
Yeah. No, I don't even agree to disagree with you. I just flat out disagree.
Right.
But yeah, go check that out. Subscribe on the Freddy Krueger tier under my Patreon. It's greatly appreciated. It goes a long way in making the podcast everything that it is, as well as supporting my main channel. And we love you for it. And with that, a huge shout out and thank you to all of the current Patreon supporters. Too many to name. But we also have our editor, Boy Cried Wolf. So thank you very much to him. And since I promised that this would be a quicker one this time, because normally we really get into it with the Buffy episodes, because it is... it'll have already passed, but it is Thanksgiving weekend when he'll be working on this. So we're just going to get right into it. So before we do get right into it, I just like a quick thoughts on season 7. This is the last season. Just lay it on me. What do you think, Edward?
Not what it could have been. Feels like a lot of I was really looking forward to it coming off of season 6. I was like, you know what? I'm really looking forward to season 7. And then when I was in it, I was treading water for a while, and then we got to a string of episodes, as you'll see, where I'm just kind of like, so that's me. What about you?
Yeah. We'll rank. We'll give our rankings for every season at the end of the episode. But this is not one that I love, and I think I've only seen it once all the way through before this. So it's not one that I've really ever revisited very often. And even when I do revisit Buffy, because it's very rare that I'll just do like a full watch through of the show, obviously, because there's just specific episodes that I'll go back and watch. And this season doesn't really have a lot of standout episodes. I feel like this is very serialized. In a way that the show hasn't been before. I mean, there's always been a through line for each season. And with season 7, it feels very much almost like the Angel format. And on that show, it is very soap opera. It's just like a continuous storyline from episode 1 till episode 22. And I don't mind it on Angel. I mean, we haven't talked about that show yet, and I'm sure we will in the future. But here, it didn't... It felt like it went against what the writers had been used to, and because of it, we got kind of a messy, maybe I'm gonna echo your words, just like not what it could have been. I found that a lot of the characters were kind of sidelined, basically everyone except for Buffy and obviously Buffy and Spike. I really love Spike as a character, but it almost felt like there was just too much focus put on him while everyone else was just kind of sidelined. And then the whole thing with the potential slayers, which is essentially it's just a room full of extras that grow or shrink in numbers depending on what episode they are. And then the lack of like a really tangible big bad, I'll say, as I'm sure we'll get into the first evil, but it felt very sorely lacking. And I think that my overall impressions of what had happened, because I don't really know the ins and outs of everything, or like if I had at one point, I don't remember them. But I know that Joss Whedon only wrote and directed the final episode. And from what I understand, hearing interviews from him in the past, he always had a very specific vision of how the series was going to end. So I'm assuming that involved the idea of like giving the power to every potential slayer. So there must have been a scenario where he's like, this is going to be the last episode. Make it work. Like, work up to it. Like, you're going to have all these potentials. And it kind of left the writers who were working on the show throughout the season without really Joss's involvement very much to just be like, all right, so we got to somehow put this all together. And it just felt like it felt very rushed, but also very slow at the same time.
Yes. I'd say underdeveloped, either due to too much time spent idly or too much time spent or not enough time spent focusing on things. We'll get into it like episode by episode, but no, I basically agree.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. See, sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes we do. Okay. Well, with that, let's start with the first episode, and we'll, just for anyone who's just watching or listening to the preview, we'll do up to a specific number, and then the rest will all be the Patreon exclusives. So. Starting with lessons, this is the season premiere, and
do you want to do the tier rankings?
What's that?
Tier rankings, the categories, the rankings.
Oh, go for it. Sorry, I'm
for people who are listening, they can't see what we're.
No, that's fair. This is that's your thing. I'm totally glossing over it.
I can see you just want to like get right to it, and I appreciate that. So I will just get right to it. There are 5 tiers. The top one, we always have a quote from the season. So the top tier means like cream of the crop, best episode is from Faith, the character Faith in End of Days, that episode, when she holds the scythe and says, "It feels like it's mine." Because that I don't know, it just spoke to the fandom. Just like when we love something that people create, it becomes ours, and it feels like it's mine.
Right.
So that's what possessed that. Second tier from Storyteller, that episode, said by Andrew, adventure and heroics and discovery. Because at least we get that. Yeah, those are all good things we look forward to and that we turn to the Buffy show for. So that's the second tier, just below the first one. Third tier is said by the first as Drusilla in Bring On the Night, and it's like pink paper. Without my Cockney accent, my bad cat Cockney accent is like pink paper. Because I just thought, okay, it's pink paper, kind of festive, pretty. But at the end of the day, it's pink paper. How excited are you going to get about it? It's fine. It's
Isn't it like a pink slip, like when you're let go from a job?
or your ownership for your car. They used
just like the carbon copy underneath.
Yeah, just something memorable. But is it? So that's the third tier. Fourth tier quote from Spike from the episode "Never Leave Me." I've been losing time for a while now. Which just basically, you're kind of bored, You're just kind of like, oh boy, wait, okay, did my mind start wandering? What just happened? That's basically the fourth tier. And fifth tier, also spoken by the first. I forget who the first was wearing at this particular episode, but it was Conversations with Dead People, and the first says, "Oh, was it?"
Then it would have been Cassie.
It would have been Cassie, right?
Yeah.
She says, "I'm done with the mortal coil," which just. Something, I don't know, particularly resonated with me because when I can't stand the fact that I'm sitting here watching something, I am done with the mortal coil. Just take me.
Yeah.
Just end it all. So there you go. Those are the tiers.
And to be perfectly honest, I don't know, and like just kind of showing my hand here, I don't know if I'll have any episodes in that bottom tier because I don't think anything was just like egregiously bad for me.
Okay.
But as we've done in the past, other than the first season, where that's what made us do things this way instead, Edward will have his tiers and I'll have mine because we're not coming to a consensus here. It's very much his ranking versus mine. But starting off, we've got lessons, and I'm also going to say here that I didn't take any notes for any of these episodes. Like if anything you say brings up memories, I will chime in. But for the most part, there's not a whole, like, I have things that I want to say about this season, but from episode to episode, there's not a terrible lot. All I'll say about this as a premiere is I think that this is the weakest premiere of the entire series. Like I had to think about it as well, like because season 6 we had bargaining, Buffy's resurrection, which I had issues with that premiere. 5 was Buffy versus Dracula, which I think is a fun episode. Season 4 was Freshman, which was also a lot of fun. Season 3 was always my favorite, Anne, when she runs away. Well, she's like in LA there, which felt like kind of a backdoor pilot to Angel. And then 2 is when she was bad, when she came back from her visit with her dad, and then the season 1, the premiere of just Welcome to the Hellmouth. So yeah, this is definitely the weakest premiere for me. The only thing I really like, the only thing that stands out whenever I think about this episode is sort of the reintroduction of the first evil as we're going through all of the big bads as Spike is watching them, and just how they morph into, like, just doing this countdown from Warren to the Master. And I always like, I hope this is such a niche thing for people who watch Buffy and Scream, since they are showing, like, Sam has her hallucinations of Billy. I just want her to, like, hallucinate all of them, like all of the past killers morph into. Wouldn't that be so fun?
I mean, I've never thought about it before. That's my answer. I mean, I thought this one, I didn't think it, like, in terms of, like, comparing it to the other pilots so much as I just thought, well, how is this, like, as a gateway from the last season into the new season? Does it continue to, like, keep my interest, and do I see, like, where other storylines could go? Am I excited about it and everything like that? And I don't know. Also, because I've seen this before, this is probably maybe my third, fourth, I don't remember, time with this season, because I don't revisit a lot of the episodes on their own either, or on my own. I like watching. I like chronology. I like being able to sit through the whole thing. So it's probably about 3 or 4 times. But so this time I was seeing Istanbul and seeing the first girl get killed, and then seeing this discussion with Buffy to Dawn while she's training her about, like, it's about power, and because I know that that's going to figure pretty much throughout this entire season, I'm like, okay, so we're establishing a theme. Pretty cool. And then Sunnydale High reopening, that's pretty cool. Seeing Willow, like, basically in rehab in Westbury, England, with the coven of witches who are the most amazing women she's ever been exposed to.
Who we don't even meet.
No, we never meet them. Okay, thank you. But also the fact that, like, the way that she talks about them is that there's also some fear. So I'm like, okay, so we are definitely carrying. It's not like, oh, good. So Willow went over and she went through rehab and she solved all her problems and everything's great. It actually made me think about Anne in a way, and we'll come back to that in a couple episodes. But it made me think about Anne in a way in terms of like Willow just kind of like on her own sojourn, just trying to kind of like get her footing again so she can reintegrate into the Sunnydale, daily practice and just be a Scooby again. But at the same time, how do you just be a Scooby now when you've almost destroyed the world? So I think everything that it's opening, I love Willow talking about things. It's all connected, with the Earth forces and everything like that. I love that she says, I was moved when she said, I want to be Willow, because that's kind of like been the plaguing problem with her character. The whole series is that nub of self-loathing that we start off with as insecurity in the first season that, like, is now manifest in this huge, kind of like big bad of season 6, and now she just wants to be herself again, and I like that for the character. Other than that, I basically just the biggest issue I think I took with it is the fact that like Dawn makes friends, and Buffy encourages them all to stick together, and she walks off into the sunset, facsimile with her 2 new friends, and they're supposed to stick together, and they're 2 other at-risk children who have like files as thick as Buffy's used to be, Principal Wood tells us, and everything.
Yeah.
And then we never see those friends ever again. And I'm like,
No.
Again, I thought like the question I asked a few seasons ago, the problem I found with Dawn was that she didn't have her own friends basically until the body, until it served, Joss's fancy, I guess.
And it felt like with those 2 specifically, because it was another girl and a boy, that they were kind of setting up, it was like the requel, here's the Willow and here's the Xander. So I'm not terribly upset that they didn't ever show up again. She actually was talking to the girl, I think her name was Kit, in episode 7 on the phone. But there was already like pre-established characters. There's like the Amber Tamblyn character from last season who was just like,
right.
Oh, I'm going over to, I think her name was like Janice. Like, I'm going over to Janice's house. They like me a lot, at least welcome me as family.
Yeah.
There's just
right.
stuff there, which, I never felt that like her character was developed in a way. We only saw her in the one episode, but when we get to episode Help, I'll at least have more to say about Dawn and her, relationships outside of the Scoobies. But yeah, I totally agree. It was a bust. I put this in, I've been losing time for a while now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I liked it a little bit better than you. I mean, I did appreciate the moment when I forgot how Buffy finds Spike again underneath the school, and that he basically goes, Buffy, duck. And she's like, duck? There's a duck? And that made me giggle. Yeah. And I do like, I don't know, it was kind of exciting, on the, revisiting it, seeing on the horizon, like the morphing of the first at the end. Yeah. I was just kind of like, oh, cool. Okay. Ball's rolling. So I put it in like pink paper. I think it's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
We're going to have to get through these episodes a lot quicker. But
okay.
No, cool. That's cool. Next up, we've got Beneath You. And the only thing that I liked about this episode was the Anya of it all. But it did this thing that I really hate, and I know that they've done it before, where there's just like, it feels very like early Buffy, where they introduce a new character who's literally just a one episode character, and they put so much focus on them, like they're important. And I don't even know what her name was, with this girl who's kind of like being set up like this could be Xander's new love interest. And this is kind of very similar to the thing that we talked about with Lessons, where you're introducing like these friends of Dawn, where we're getting these new characters that are kind of being set up to be established as bigger characters. And this girl is just in the one episode, and they spend so much time with her, not just with her, but like they do this whole thing where the group is sort of explaining the current dynamics, the interrelationship stuff, interpersonal relationship between like, oh, Buffy had a thing with Spike, and Spike had a thing with Anya, sort of thing. And she's just there being like, okay, so you and this and you. And I'm like, okay, like that would be fun and great if this is a new character who actually needs to clock all of this information for herself. But since she's nobody who's not going to come back, we're basically just regurgitating shit that we already know for the sake. It just felt like filler. So other than like the Anya and having to, like, we're already seeing kind of like the setup of her mini arc here, because it really is like just the first 5 episodes of just Anya and how, she's not in good standing with the Order or whatever, the D'Hoffryn clan of vengeance demons, and her having making the decision to undo the spell, which we don't even see her do or get to that point where she's broken down to do it. It just happens off screen. So that's all I have to say about this.
Okay. I'll just say to speak to the Anya thing, one of my favorite parts of her in this episode is just her discovery of Spike's soul by just looking at him and the way she's like, "How did you do it?" And she gets so excited. I don't know. I just thought, like, and the fact that he just wants to hide it and just kind of like keep her quiet, and then it erupts into this fight and everything like that. I was just kind of like, yes, okay, this is cool. I don't remember this. I don't remember. I don't think about this when I think about this season, because stuff like this doesn't happen often enough. I also wanted to ask you a question. I am so okay. Spike starts, we alluded to this in the last pod, and Spike starts talking about like the spark, and he says to Buffy, "It's what you wanted, right?" Okay, I just want to know, what do you believe happened at the end of season 6 with Spike that he's alluding to with this? Because it seems like what they're suggesting is that he left with the intention of getting a soul, and that was going to be I'll show her, and all that big man talk that he did. Whereas my read, the first time I ever watched the finale or the final 3 episodes of season 6, when Spike goes off on his sojourn, was that he wanted to get his chip out so he could be a badass again, so he could really show her what happened. And I'm not saying I'm right. But
it's
my
almost
read it was like by mistake he got his soul instead of having the chip removed.
It's almost like back in season 2, the Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, where Xander full on casts a spell on, like, with the intention of casting a spell on Cordelia so she can fall in love with him, so he can break up with her and break her heart. But then it backfires, and then they find themselves in the basement, and all he says is, like, this spell wasn't meant for everyone else, it was just meant for you. And that's a thing with Xander that I always take issue with. Like, not just that, but just sort of like the only, like, the half-truths and stuff. And Cordelia is just like, that's so romantic sort of thing. Just like, yeah, but you didn't know what the intention was of it. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's like Spike went to do this thing that was, like, you know, more so just to commit more evil and atrocities against Buffy, but it somehow ended up working out that he's like, oh, I have my soul now, sort of thing. I don't think that was the case with it. I think that he had intended to get his soul. It's just that the way that they were trying to frame it was like to make us think that he was trying to get the chip out, or just like that he had more sinister intentions. I feel that he was always had planned on getting his soul.
Okay, because the only reason it enters my mind is after revisiting all of his language at the end of season 6, I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But I think they determined that that's what they're going to. That's definitely the story now, because I don't want to think that Spike is lying in the beginning of this season either. So I'm just going to retcon it in my headcanon. I also but what I do appreciate as well, Spike is confessing. It makes Buffy so much more interesting to me that while she's hearing this confession that he's relaying onto her, that she is crying, like, as she's witnessing it. And I don't know, there's just something about that speaks to, like, the depth of that character and the really confusing relationship that the two of them have. The only other thing I like is that Dawn confronting Spike with, if you hurt my sister at all, touch her, you're going to wake up on fire. I bought it. I was like, this is a Dawn I can get on board with. So I put it just above Lessons in Like Pink Paper. What about you?
I put it above as well, but still, like, in that I've been losing time for a while now.
Okay.
Yeah. This, like, just like these first couple of episodes, they were really tough to get into the season. Like, it felt like there was intention, like there was, like, especially with the cold opens of each one where they're, you know, setting up the thing with, like, the potential slayers, but it felt like they were trying way too hard to do something and ended up doing nothing. And that the whole scene at the end there, which actually takes up quite a while, it just felt so tonally out of place from the rest of the episode, and so much of it just, like, it wasn't even registering with me, because it was like, I don't even know what I'm watching here. It's like, this is a completely different episode. So yeah, same time, same place, episode 3. This is another, I'm gonna be, like, very nitpicky. I'll just say the thing that I like about this is the monster in it, and it's the same actor who played one of the gentlemen. He also, I believe, is the Uber vampire. He's done a lot of monsters throughout both this series and Angel.
Camden Toy.
Camden Toy, yes, thank you. Like, he is great. There's just a very interesting, like, sort of like fairy tale monster aspect of it. What I hate about this episode is literally everything else, because it's doing this thing that gets like it's a gimmick, which is interesting, but then it's finished after the first time they do it, because they just go back and forth and show the same scene from a different perspective. Which what might have worked better is if they had just started with the Buffy, Xander, Dawn perspective, and it's just like, where's Willow? We don't know, but here's like these people showing up around town and they're apparently being flayed, and then halfway to then show Willow's perspective, and then it wouldn't feel so tired to jump back and forth, because it just got frustrating, because it's just like, we know what the characters don't know, and that's a problem that I've always had with some of my lesser favorite episodes here, of just like, we're basically ahead of the characters, and it's frustrating just watching them catch up with everything else.
Yeah, I wrote kind of the necessary, not unnecessary, kind of the necessary transitional episode, like Buffy coming home after Anne, just frustrating. I mean, I appreciated the yellow crayon on the, on the sign that Xander held for Willow, but also just the all alone thing. Once the second he started going, all alone, I was like, oh, I remember this. I don't like Gnarl. Camden Toy, good job. Especially like while we actually got to see him like with Willow while she was completely incapacitated, in the cave, and he's starting to strip her flesh off and everything like that and talk to her about it. I was like, he's very effective. I just don't like the character. Yeah. So the performance is great, but I wish he'd been, I don't know, set up differently, or if they'd been a little less fairy tale, maybe that's what it is, because he did feel very kind of like, old lore troll under a bridge, but with teeth kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I just the things that I really did appreciate that I wish I could have gotten more of, not just in this episode but the whole season, like they planted this seed with Willow and Anya bonding over like what power means to them now after they've been these kind of very, very powerful influences, given their past lives, like as a vengeance demon and as Dark Willow. But
I think that Anya is the best. Like for me, Anya is the best part of like these earlier episodes. Like even just like the small, like just the little things, like Willow going to her, like, can you, do me a favor? Or just being like, is it difficult or time consuming? Just like her bluntness. Like, I feel like Anya is still Anya. Everyone else is just like lost. And that's what's so frustrating about this season.
Well, even because I love that line comes after Anya tells her, I'm surprisingly sensitive. But, and I agree. Like Anya for a long time was the presence on screen, and she shares this mantle with two other characters for me, where every time they're on screen, I kind of like go, oh, there you are. Yeah. And I'm almost smiling while I'm watching their scenes unfold. I just wish that we could have gotten more of that dynamic, because these are two characters who were at odds for each other for so long, and there were so many different ways they could have developed that relationship as these people are becoming more and more, growing into their adulthood and redefining what this Scooby team really is. So is it Friends? No, it's something else, but it's a lot of things. Only other thing I'll say is I did feel moved when Buffy lent her strength to Willow to heal at the very end of it. So for that reason, I rank it, I don't even remember. Same time, same place. I put it, that bumped it up from where I was thinking it was going to go, but the demon kind of bombed it for me. I think it belongs here. I'm putting it in. I've been losing time for a while now, because those highlights, I think they last as long as it just took me to talk about them. The rest of the episode, I was very frustrated. Yeah. So how about you?
Let me see. Where did I put it here? I actually have it in like pink paper. Just more so because it's very middling to me, but I feel like it at least has its own identity as an episode. Like it just stands out from the last two. that I feel like we're at least moving towards something. Like the season is getting, like you mentioned, this as being a transitional episode. I feel like things are at least coming together more. Like the team is slowly assembling.
I could have used a little less sad piano with Willow wandering around the Summers household, construction sites, Sunnydale High. Like, I mean, it's just Willow being sad walking around the episode.
It was there's a lot of bullshit. This is not a good episode. It's very middling. So next we have Help.
Yes.
And this one, there were, because I mentioned before, just like kind of the dawn of it all. Because I liked the character, the Cassie character, and I felt like
too.
In her introduction, it's just like, why is she a one episode? Well, and it shows up in conversations, but why is this a one episode character? Why are you developing characters who are actually interesting and then just getting rid of them right away? Because I liked her dynamic with Dawn. I liked the scene when they were leaving, and she's just like, it's okay, you don't have to follow me. I know that Buffy is getting you to like keep tabs on me, and she's like, I'm sorry, I just I was just trying to like be your friend or whatever. And she's like Dawn, we are friends. And it was just like right there, it's just like I already felt like a connection between them, and just like a sort of like something for Dawn other than just being the kid sister who's, or as she says later on in the season, like Watcher Junior to the library, or whatever Dawn's role is in this season. But there's a lot that I liked about it. I was like surprised to see what's his face. I totally forgot that he was in this episode.
The Zachary Ty Bryan from
the Home Improvement kid who's also in The Rage, Carrie too.
Yes, played a very similar role.
I forgot that he had like a bigger role in this, because there was just sort of this montage of just like Buffy meeting with all the students. And I just thought like, oh, this is weird. He just like has a cameo, and like, oh no, he's kind of the little bad, the big bad of this episode. But no, like this one felt like the characters were kind of like settling back into their roles. They're just having a lot more fun while still being serious. They're still like there's a long way to go to get back to what Buffy is, but I could see the potential here of just sort of like being almost more like where we were in season 6. But I don't know, I enjoyed this one.
Did you see who directed it?
Who?
Rick Rosenthal.
Oh, again.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, I was really proud of him with this episode, actually.
Yeah.
All I can say is Azura Sky, because I knew she was coming, because I've seen this season before. But I remember when I saw her, she's one of those actresses. She was the best thing about this horror movie, One Missed Call. She's in that movie that isn't the prequel to 28 Days Later, 28 Days with Sandra Bullock, where she plays a kind of equally vulnerable, probably even more vulnerable young girl. And she's in an episode of Smallville. Like she's done. I've just loved her in everything I've ever seen her in. I think she makes everything so much more grounded and so much more dimensionalized in the world. Like I just buy her in any instance that I see her acting in, and like her. So I appreciated that. I also noticed with Zachary Ty Bryan playing Peter, the dick. I had a big problem this time that never really occurred to me before. He gets punched by Spike, which I dig, but nobody calls the cops after they all start leaving. I'm like, well, Buffy spoke about how human beings have this, we have our own ways of dealing with things and that she can't tackle as a Slayer. Him kidnapping and almost killing a young teenage girl should be one of those things that the people... Anyway, that was just... that felt like a nitpick, but a very a significant one for me. I was like, screenwriters, what are you doing? But ultimately, just the questions it brings up with like Buffy as a counselor, which I actually liked that angle, would have liked to have seen more time spent on that. But I don't know how you do that. Well, with everything they were trying to achieve this season. But just when she asks, "But what do you do when you know that you can't help?" That always will get me when a person in a heroic role, who can like leap, tall buildings in a single bound or defy gravity or do whatever it is that they can do, can't help. They're as much, stilted as every other mortal that they're used to saving. I really, really liked it, but yeah, them nobody calling the cops kind of like bogged it down a little bit for me. So I put it in adventure and heroics and discovery. I liked it. What about you?
I put it in like pink paper. I'll put it above same time, same place.
Okay.
All right, from this point forward, I think we'll close out the preview episode. So thank you for anyone who has been watching or listening. If you do want to check out the rest of the episode or the other seasons, head over to my Patreon, Zack Cherry, ZackCherry, and subscribe there to the Freddy Krueger tier. Otherwise, we'll be back next week. We're talking about Deep Red. But with that said,